Have you ever woke up one day and looked around you and thought, am I broke? That was my reality. And so I know I'm not the only person that has asked that question. So how do you know if you're broke? I've got 9 situations that if you find yourself inside of, you might be broke. So first things first, you're living paycheck to paycheck. Unfortunately, there's such a huge percentage of Americans that find themselves in this situation. And if you're living paycheck to paycheck, you might be broke. Secondly, you carry credit card debt. You just can't seem to be able to have enough money to pay those babies down or off every single month, and so you carry a balance. Next is you have no savings account, no emergency savings. There is a huge statistic that said that most Americans under the age of 30 could not cover a $400 emergency without putting it on a credit card. They didn't carry $400 in their checking or their savings account or have cash money. So many people unfortunately are walking around with no emergency fund, and if you don't have that, you might be broke. Not saving for the future. So many people underestimate the power of the compound of interest and money over time. And unfortunately, we say, well, I'll just do it later or in the future or some other time. I'll start saving for my retirement. And if you're not saving for your retirement, probably because there's just not extra money to go towards it, you might be broke now and setting yourself up for being broke later. So if you don't have money going towards retirement, you might be broke. Do you argue with your significant other over money? If that's the case, you might be broke. So this one is a twofer. Either you spend what you expect to make or you spend more than you earn. Unfortunately, that's why a lot of people carry so much credit card debt, is because they've got more expenditures than they have take-home income. And that leads me to my next one. Most people don't have a plan for their money. We don't follow a budget. And I know it feels like work, but maybe change how you see the word budget. Maybe look at it as like a spending planner. You work hard to earn this money, so where's it going to go to most benefit you in life? So if you're somebody who spends more than what you take home or spends what you expect to bring in, you might be broke. Another trait is that there is a lack of discipline. And I think that that's where a lot of us tend to fall into that category. It's difficult when it comes to your money because, let's face it, sometimes we have this want that we need to fill right now. And so in order to fill it, we just go and buy whatever we want. We put it on credit, we figure out a way to have it. And there's not self-discipline. There's not saying, okay, I have this goal and I'm going to save towards it. I'm going to cut from these other places so I have this money, this cash money to go and spend. Most people, I do believe, will just swipe a credit card or create an installment loan payment. There's a lot of those buy now, pay later kind of situations, and just, make it a payment plan. My goodness, look at our cell phone bills. Many people are walking around with a cell phone bill that also covers the cost of that phone that was purchased, and it's broken up monthly over a certain amount of time rather than just paying cash for that phone. Lastly, you might be broke if you borrow for everything. Unfortunately, there's a lot of people that are walking around with a tremendous amount of debt. The average American that carries a student loan balance right now, it's at $38,000 as an average. Most people who are financing their cars, the average is 60-something months, 69 months for a brand new car, 65 months for a used car as far as the term in which people are borrowing for an automobile. We're getting 30-year mortgages and we're buying usually more house than what we actually need. And so many people are just financing everything that's in their life rather than paying cash and saving for those things. So if any of these traits or circumstances is something that you find yourself in, you might be broke. But there's always a way to get out of anything, right? So I've got a couple of suggestions that can help you get out of being broke. First and foremost, I think it's so important that you understand you have a core story about money. It's a story that you created somewhere between 4, 5, 6 years old, and you've been living into it your entire life. You have a belief about money, and consider that it's not the right belief about money. We learned it from our caretakers, our environment, what we saw going on around us, and then it was reaffirmed sometime between the ages of 12 and 15 years old. So what is it that you believe to be true about money? We all have a core story, and that is what makes our money personalities. That's what impacts our spending behaviors. And knowing your core story can really change the trajectory of how you handle money. Also, your money mindset. How many people sit there and say to themselves all the time, I'm broke, I'm broke, I'm broke, or I'm poor. I can't afford that. There's this rhetoric that's going on in our mind, and what you say is your reality. So instead of focusing on being broke or saying, I can't afford that, maybe you could ask, what would it take for me to be able to afford it? How do I create more value and more money in my life? I know that a trick that somebody taught me, and it's actually really, really worked, and I want to pass this along to you, is that you can change your password to your goal. Do you want to make $100,000 this year? Change your password to I earn $100,000 in 2021 or something along those lines, right? So if you have to constantly sign in that way, it's an affirmation that you're saying over and over and over again. And where you put your focus is where your attention goes. That's where your thoughts flow. And that's where you create change, is through positive affirmations. Instead of saying you can't have, you lack, you want, you don't have that in your life, change the conversation a little bit to something positive. How can I? I can get there. We have to shift our money mindset, and also the way we speak to ourselves. That voice that's talking to you constantly, it's probably more negative than it is positive, and we've got to change that language. Next, create a plan. Sit down. Don't call it a budget if a budget sounds yucky to you, but sit down and look at what your take-home income is. And then look at your expenditures. Where does your money flow to? You've got your fixed costs over here. So your auto loan, your mortgage or your rent, student loans, any other kind of installment loans. And then you've got all of these variables, right? You've got your food, your utilities, your entertainment, your insurances, gas, cell phone bills, all of those things. Write down absolutely everything. Look at the last couple months worth of your bank transaction history and see where your money is going to. Write it all down. And if you see that you've got more outflow than you've got income, we've got to make some adjustments there, or you're going to stay broke. And what else can you do? You can get busy. You can get a second job. You can create a side hustle. I'm telling you, if I were 22 years old again, I would be a pet sitter in addition to my main job. What I pay for our pet sitter when we travel, for her to come and stay at our home and just hang out with our dogs, that would be a really nice side hustle. So what could you see yourself doing to make some extra cash, and then put that money towards getting out of debt so that you're not paying interest to all of these other parties? And then once you get those things paid off, now you've got a little bit of cash flow. Now you can create that savings. Now you can start putting towards retirement. You see what happens here? I like it. And some people might get mad at me for this, but I'm going to say it anyway. Stop being lazy. So many of us spend hours in front of the TV, Netflix binging, whatever the case is, night after night after night. Where else could you put that time and energy? Could you be taking some classes so that you are worth more to your employer? If you are harder to replace, that means you are more valuable to that employer. So you can make more money over time. It can lead to promotions, to raises, all sorts of things. Maybe it can get you into the next level of your career, or have you starting your own business where you can earn even more from your potential. And I see some little things fall through the traps, like food prep. If you had prepared your meals in advance, maybe you wouldn't go and get that salad on the run or go through the drive-thru, because you meal prepped at home, so you've got this food with you already. I've seen where people don't even research at all for large purchases. If you don't put time into researching for large purchases, you could be losing hundreds, if not thousands of dollars over time by not putting your time into research. So you don't know what kind of price you should pay for something, what kind of interest rate you should pay for something. Something along those lines can cost you a lot of money. And then sometimes being lazy is just as simple as, well, this bank is right here. I need to get money out of the ATM. It's going to cost me $3 instead of driving a mile up the road to get to your bank where there's no charge at all. You do that often enough, that $3 becomes a lot of money over time. So where do you think that you might be a little lazy in your life and it's actually costing you money? Because that money compounds over time. And you could take that and put it towards your debt pay down, put it towards your bigger goals of having an emergency savings, and then ultimately being able to save for your retirement. So those small little choices add up over time to big results. I hope that you don't find yourself broke when you go through this list, but should you find yourself answering yes to some of these situations, these traits, get into action so you can stop being broke.